Representative Nadone? Representative O'Brien? Representative Tabone? And Representative Ella Wilkinson? Representative Mazurkowski?
Present.
Okay. And Representative Slater?
Present.
Excellent. We have a quorum.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're going to start with the House Fiscal Staff slideshow. Tim, if you could start us off.
Yep, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening to you members of the subcommittee. I'm going to take you through, as you said, the governor's budget recommendations for the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. The council was established in 1967 to advance public and professional interests in arts in the state. As you know, the Film and Television Office, which administers the state's motion picture and theater tax credit programs, is also within the Council on the Arts. On this table, you can see the recommended distribution of funds by source, and you'll note that the largest increases are attributable to federal funds. By category, you'll note that the increases are attributable to grants and staffing. I'll note that the staffing increase in the current year is overstated. About 2/3 of that amount was intended as grant support, but inadvertently added only to salary and benefit costs. This table presents the recommended FTE allocations by year. You'll note that the governor did not recommend a commensurate FTE increase along with the salary and benefit increase, but that the council is staffed above its authorized level. Governor Raimondo, in her FY 2021 budget recommendation, included $25,000 for a communication consultant to assist the council. The CARES Act, enacted in response to the pandemic, provided the council a supplemental National Endowment on the Arts Award, which included $50,000 for administration. The council noted that it intended to use those funds to support a new FTE. Last September, the governor requested an amendment to authorize that position, and it was posted for hire. The position was filled by December 2020 prior to the budget being enacted. As you're aware, the authorization was not included in the enacted budget. As such, the council is in violation of Section 11 of Article 1 regarding authorized position levels. The governor's budget does not address the violation. This table shows the council's grant categories and the sources they're funded from. After the FY 2021 budget was enacted, the council was provided $1 million from coronavirus relief federal funds to support artists and arts organizations. Those funds were distributed by December 30th, the deadline to use those funds at that time. State law requires the Secretary of State to have a portrait of each living governor painted and hung here in the State House. The council released a request for proposal earlier this month, which includes a $50,000 commission, including the costs of production, and notes additional funding for travel and shipping. The council has reported that it anticipates the project costing $75,000 over 3 years. The governor's budget includes $50,000 for FY 2022, split equally between general revenues and restricted receipts. Prior governor's portrait commissions have been $15,000. The following slide is from the Article 2 hearing authorizing the restricted receipts account, and here for your reference. The council also administers the state's Percent for Arts program, which requires all new or renovated building projects to allocate 1% of their cost to public art. The governor recommends $600,000 and $500,000 for FY 2021 and FY 2022 respectively. And as you know, the council also administers a share of the Creative and Cultural Economy Bonds program, originally approved by the voters in November 2014 and again in March 2021. This table shows the total bond amounts and allocations of those funds for each authorization. The governor's recommended budget anticipates exhausting the 2014 bond funds this year and spending the newly approved funds over the next 4 years. That completes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tim, thank you. Any questions from the members of Tim before we bring in the members of the council? Okay, Tim, thank you. Do you have a question, Representative Barris?
A quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Chairman, so Tim, your prior portrait that were commissioned was $15,000. So they're saying that this portrait of Governor Raimondo is going to be $75,000. Is that what we're saying?
That's the assumption, and I'm sure the council is prepared to speak to that.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative. It's odd because she's much smaller.
London's big.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go to Randy Rosenbaum first, the Executive Director of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. Randy, if you could make your presentation to the committee. speak about the work of the council, specifically related to the budget request. And the floor is yours through WebEx.
Sitting there right now, staring at me like, Mom.
I actually sort of like this because
Okay, we have
waiting
you
in the
on.
basement of the State House
Now we have
for
you.
stuff to start up is.
Randy, we
real,
have you on. You can start your testimony. You are
I
hooked
hear
in
voices.
through WebEx, Randy, if you can hear us.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right, Randy, you are before the Subcommittee on Education and House Finance. You can begin your presentation whenever you'd like.
Thank you, sir. We know that it's been a long afternoon and evening for you and the members, and we appreciate your forbearance. We'll try to cover a lot of ground in a very short period of time and leave plenty of time for any questions you or the committee members might have. Representing the State Arts Council will be me as Executive Director, Stephen Feinberg, who's the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Film and Television Office, and our Chairman, Libby Slater. I'm going to cover a couple of things, just bringing you up to speed on stuff since we last presented to the House Finance Committee about the arts economy in our state, the impact of COVID on the arts and culture community and the arts education community, and talk a little bit about the things like the Cultural Bond Initiative that was passed by the taxpayers in March, along with a few other things. But we'll quickly move through this. If you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to ask. Let's start with the economy, because that's one of the more tangible things that we can talk about. It's clear that the arts have and continue to be a significant part of the Rhode Island economy. Looking back to statistics that were gathered by the U.S. Department of Commerce Bureau of Economic Analysis for the 2017 year, the arts account for over $2 billion in economic activity here in the state of Rhode Island, about 3.5% of our gross domestic product for Rhode Island, and represent close to 18,000 jobs in our state. This is significant, a significant part of the Rhode Island economy. RISCA, and there are some materials that were provided to you in advance, and I'm not going to direct you to specific pages because I forgot to put page numbers on them. But there is a map there of the grants that we awarded in fiscal year 20, which is what I'll refer to as the last normal year that we had before the pandemic began, and even that was partially not normal. We received over 636 applications from throughout the state of Rhode Island, with requests in excess of $4 million. We awarded about 335 grants in that year, totaling about $1.5 million in state and federal funds. And those grants, based on the final reports that we asked for from all of our grantees, those grants generated over $44.7 million in matching dollars by our grantees. So the return on a $1.5 million investment is $44.7 million in increased economic activity, not counting things like the influence that it's had on the restaurant business, parking garages, bars, all the things that the arts contribute to significantly in our state. Over 2 million adults and over 530,000 children in fiscal year 20 participated in RISCA-funded activities. So again, we're doing a lot for a tiny little organization. A significant part of last year was the adoption by our council of a strategic plan that took over a year and a half to put together. We made significant efforts to solicit information and recommendations and comments from the arts and non-arts community. We held workshops throughout the state, in coffee houses, in breweries after hours, anywhere we could reach a typical or non-typical audience to get their impressions of what we as an agency should be doing. And that resulted in a very significant strategic plan that not only gave direction to where we were going, but also underscored the efforts that we need to be making to be a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization. And over the past year, with the strategic plan in place, RISCA staff has done a significant job in reviewing and making changes to our grant making and our programs and services so that we can be reaching deeply and inclusively into the Rhode Island community. In March, the Cultural Bond Initiative passed overwhelmingly. There's a page in the material that you have before you that shows a map of all of the communities in the state that passed this bond. And I'm happy to say the 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island, every one of them passed it by a plurality. Some more than others, but everything over 50% in every city and community in our state. We learned a lot from the 2014 bond initiative. We spent almost all of the $30 million that you and the taxpayers provided to us on a variety of grants. A high percentage of those funds went to Rhode Island companies, and we have documented all of the companies and consultants and workers who have participated in this program, and we have that information that we can provide to the committee. Over 1,083 people were employed. Over $11 million was paid in salaries alone. And the MBE and WBE earnings were close to $3 million out of this project. I have in the material that I've included in your packet highlighted 2 projects that were part of the 70 or 80 projects that we supported through this program. Grant to the Boys and Girls Club of Warwick and a grant to Mixed Magic Theater in Pawtucket, both of whom have done things that have allowed them to extend and expand their programming, since cultural facilities are a significant part of what makes each of these organizations work possible. It's a subcommittee on education, so it's important for us to stress and underscore that arts education is essential to a high-quality education. National studies have shown that over 80% of our students reported mental health struggles during the pandemic. Access to quality arts education is more important now than ever. The connections between social, emotional learning and the arts was evident as we transferred into digital and virtual environments, and those learning opportunities grew exponentially over the past year. We continue to be the agency of state government that supports our arts educators and works in partnership with the Rhode Island Department of Education to ensure that the arts remain a core content area. I'm particularly proud, and there's a slide here with some images from a North Carolina version of what we're starting to do here in Rhode Island, the development of an arts education data project designed to use Rhode collected data to assess the strength of arts education at the district and school building level. That's the first step toward making systemic change possible in support of arts education. Public art, there has been a significant amount of work that's been done in the public art area. I know that House Fiscal Staff has a list in their possession of recently done projects, and I can bring the committee up to speed on some of that material as well, either through written testimony or otherwise. I'd like to conclude with just talking about the impact of COVID on the arts community. As I've said many times before, the arts and culture were the first to close and will probably be the last to reopen because the nature of congregating to participate in and observe arts and cultural events. A recent report from grant makers in the arts underscored this problem and in September described the arts community as effectively on life support due to COVID. A Brookings Institution study showed that over 10,000 jobs and $436 million was lost in just the first 4 months of the pandemic. And if you stop and quantify that, back in July of last year, Rhode Island had 18,000 known cases of COVID. As of today, we have over 150,000 cases of COVID. The order of magnitude from when that study took place and where we are now is significantly more. And we've been pleased to do a number of things to help address the need of the arts and culture community. I'm proud that the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts developed an artist relief fund that provided direct support to individual artists who lost their means of making money and putting food on the table and paying rent. We raised over $500,000 in a very short period of time and awarded over 800 grants directly to individual artists to help them with these necessary costs. There is a list in your packet that shows the federal money that has been directed to the Arts Council through the National Endowment for the Arts and through the state of Rhode Island that we have gotten out the door very quickly to nonprofit arts organizations to help them during these difficult times. And we've also provided hands-on assistance in cooperation with the Department of Health and Department of Business Regulation and Commerce to get people knowledgeable about what they need to do to reopen and the resources that are available to them to help toward that end. And there's been a significant amount that has helped the arts community approach this summer and into the fall reopening something relative to normal experiences. We've also helped to highlight the work of these artists and to help them move their work online as necessary to during these difficult times. But the arts really do happen with an audience and in person. So this has been a poor substitution for what the arts community needs in order to survive. And a lot of them have closed their doors, at least during this period, because the resources are not there to make things happen. Finally, there have been reports in the paper, you may have seen them, about us managing the process for Governor Raimondo's official portrait. You may have questions about that. I'm happy to respond to those as well. We've developed a committee to assist in this process and have, as of last week, opened this offering to artists to apply for consideration for this grant. At the moment, that's all from me. Happy to turn it over to Stephen Feinberg, unless you have questions for me directly now.
Thank you, Randy. I think we'll ask a few questions of you, if you don't mind, and then we'll go to Steve, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
We do have your packet before us, and as you know, generally speaking, this subcommittee is very supportive of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, and we do want to thank you for your efforts during the pandemic to prop up the arts around the state. Absolutely an imperative and integral part of our state culture and our cities and towns. So we appreciate that, and we do have that information provided. I'm not sure if you could hear the presentation prior to your testimony, but Representative Barros had a question regarding the governor's portrait, so I'll let him ask you that now.
Sure. Hi, Rep.
Hi, Randall. How are you?
Fine, sir. How are you?
So, Randall, I guess my question was, past portrait cost 15. Is this the new portrait you're saying is going to cost 3 times? I mean, it's going to cost $75,000?
No, actually, we made an impassioned plea to the Department of Administration to increase the $15,000, which was the portrait commission for Governors Almond, Carcieri, and Chafee, to a more appropriate level, which we recommended at $25,000. That's what is included in the governor's proposed budget. Even there, if you stop and think that it takes, in the case of at least two of the three portraits that I've just described over a year and a half to create that work. And during that time, the artists are concentrating mostly on that work to the exclusion of other paid gigs. It comes down to about $9 or $10 an hour, which for someone who has trained their entire life to create high quality works of art is not much, particularly since a skilled welder makes about $30 an hour. We recommended $25,000. That was what was approved in the governor's proposed budget. Then we received a donation to increase that to $50,000 in light of the fact that this is a significant historical event for the state of Rhode Island. It is our first female governor. And supporters of the governor wanted to contribute some additional money toward that end.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Representative. Randy, I assume we'd like to have a Rhode Island artist do these portraits?
Yeah, we certainly would. And we included a wish list of people in the call for artists, including how wonderful it would be to have a female artist, how wonderful it would be to have an artist of color, how important it would be to have a Rhode Island artist. We have, as an agency, been extremely supportive of Rhode Island artists, but feel that in the commissioning of a work of art, we need to spread the net as broadly as possible to come up with as many quality options as possible. I will say that the two of the three artists that petited this commission, for Governor Chafee and Governor Carcieri, they were both Rhode Island artists, and that was the choice of the governor. So I'm assuming that I don't know whether I can assume or not, whether Governor Raimondo would choose a Rhode Island artist, but I'm sure that would be a high priority for her.
Thank you. Representative Nardone has a question for you, Randy.
Yes. Hi, Randall.
Hello, sir.
Hey, just one question. In the beginning of your presentation, you alluded to the fact that the arts creates 18,000 jobs. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
It's figures made available to us by the U.S. Department of Commerce Bureau of Economic Analysis, which starting about 7 years ago, started to do an annual review of the arts economy in the United States and in each state. So the figures that we get are from the U.S. Department of Commerce, and we think are pretty darn credible as a result of that.
Okay, so these are not direct jobs. They're like ancillary jobs. Would that be a fair
No,
assumption?
they're jobs of, and we discussed this when we're talking with the Department of Education about career and technical education, which is a significant effort in our state to provide career options for students, particularly those not heading toward college. The arts are an amazing and a very strong career path for a lot of these students. Apprenticeships, training programs, not just in the creation of works of art, but also in all of the programs that support artists, backstage production, makeup artists, hair design, building sets, carpentry, welding. The steel yard is not only creating a generation of welders in our state who are creating fine arts fencing and things along those lines, but they're also training welders for electric boat. So there are lots of arts-related career options for students to follow, and they are pretty well-paid options as well.
Okay, thank you, Randy. It was more of a curiosity question, just.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
I've gathered some information, and I'll send it to you and the committee members about career options in the arts.
Okay.
Thank you, Representative. Randy, in our presentation from the House fiscal staff, the violation of Section 11, Article 1 was highlighted where the council was in violation of the FTE cap, the cap at 8.6, 9.6 filled. The governor's proposed budget pays for that but does not add the FTE. Do you want to address that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. When the CARES Act funding became available to us in March and April of 2020, a provision of that allowed us to use some of those funds for administrative purposes. One of the things that emerged during our discussions with the National Endowment for the Arts, the federal agency that provided these funds, was that we needed to increase our communications efforts. This also came out of our strategic planning efforts as well, as a high priority for the agency. We asked the governor's office and the Department of Administration, we requested a position, funded it in fully by federal funds. And we went through a review process that the Department of Administration established for the requested use of those funds. The department approved the request to fill the position, and we were told it was included as part of a request to the General Assembly for other positions throughout state government. I actually wasn't aware that the Arts Council request was turned down until after the position was filled, but we did follow the lead that was provided to us by the Department of Administration.
Okay, the authorization was not approved, so, and that, I assume the folks from the administration are no longer in that position at this point, but that was highlighted in our briefing, and in all cases such as this, with all the departments that come before the House Finance Committee, we are, we are asking those questions because there is that cap and there is that article that is the law, and the General Assembly has the authorization. Randy,
I understand, sir.
Do you want to go to Steve now?
Yes. Hi. Hello, Chairman.
Good evening, Steve.
Good to see you. I can't see you, but I can hear you. I'm Stephen Feinberg, Executive Director of the Rhode Island Film and TV Office. I represent the little engine that could. There's myself and Assistant Carol Conley and a part-timer, Lou Place. We've all been working together for the film office for myself 17 years, Carolyn Lou 16 and 15 years. We've been working together, and we like to think that our little engine does the work of a dozen folks. One of the things that we had to do, especially with the COVID, is to put all of the COVID safety protocols, all the information on our website. And we work with DBR, Commerce, and the Department of Health to put this together in association with all of the major film and TV production companies and networks who work very closely with all the unions. So the protocols that were put in place and continue to be put in place are extremely comprehensive. And so we were able to provide guidance. Again, that's at the fingertips of anyone who wants to go on our website, whether it's a small production, large production. We also had restrictions as to how many people could be on a set at one time. And so all that stuff's part of our website. And on our website, it's everything from, it's a one-stop shop website. So you can see the film tax credit, all of the information there. There's a local production guide of all of our local workers. We have the law. We've got frequently asked questions. I think every other day revolving community news. Also a location guide. So lots of photos. It's done by subject matter like mansions or farms. And it's also, you can attack it by cities and towns. So that's just one of the things that we have to provide our services. I've been in constant contact with all of the union and non-union productions, along with the Hollywood executives. And we've also been giving permits to some of the smaller productions. I think it's been about $18 million of very small productions, including little commercials. And this is all, not all of it, but a lot of it's been during COVID and now, thankfully, coming out of COVID. For the motion picture tax incentive program, which we are capped at annually at $20 million annually, restricts the amount of productions that we can bring into Rhode Island. Massachusetts, our neighbors, which copied our program, they have no cap. So they're allowed to bring in all size productions into their state. And they actually, their House just voted to remove the sunset date, and it's now going on to the Senate. But we have a $20 million annual cap. We have a show right now from HBO called The Gilded Age that today is the first day of phase 2. They came in March and April. Again, going through the DBR, Commerce, Department of Health in my office. Very strict COVID protocols. Everyone's wearing, looks more like a MASH unit than a film set when you go on there. Everybody's got their coverings and everything like that. But they're filming in Newport. It's from the creator of Downton Abbey and the whole team of Downton Abbey. It's going to be, the first season is 10 episodes. And it is the Gilded Age. Some of the characters are real characters, like Stanford White, who helped build the or design the building that you're sitting in right now, the glorious State House. And it's just awesome work, and all the costumes everything's authenticity. So costumes are made from scratch. They're filming in the Newport mansions. It's going to be a huge asset for our tourism industry when it comes out early next year. And hopefully we'll do 5 or 6 seasons of this superb show called The Gilded Age. So far, we have done 165 feature films and television series and documentaries that have used the motion picture tax incentives, representing over $560 million of production in our ocean state. We've also done 637 permits on the smaller projects, representing over $18 million in our state. As I told you, the Julian Fellows, Lord Julian Fellows, that's the Gilded Age program that's happening now. We have we had an independent film that just completed, locally made, a Cranston director, a East Greenwich producer. That was just completed. We have another independent film that's going to be starting in about a month that stars very recognizable actors. I don't want to say it here, but people will be excited when we make the actual announcement. And we also are working on a large Disney production that would start prepping probably towards the end of June and beginning to film at the end of September all the way to Christmas. Coinciding with all of that I just mentioned, the fact that we have a cap, which is the $20 million per calendar year, if there is a way to bump that up to 25 to 30 million per calendar year, it would be greatly appreciated. There are some really special projects that I've unfortunately had to turn away, and sometimes it's like moving a chessboard around, trying to figure out how can I accommodate these productions, which again employ our local crew, local cast members. As an example, with the Gilded Age, all of the extras, which were Rhode Islanders, because of COVID, not only were they hiring the Rhode Islanders and putting on these special costumes and putting them in the period pieces, they would put them up in hotels for 3 or 4 nights for quarantine purposes. So it has an effect on our hotels. It has an effect on all of our vendors. And I think if we can bring more production, it's going to benefit our state greatly. As Dr. Mazie once said in a study, for every $1 that we give in a tax credit is equivalent to $8 of economic activity. I've also been doing Zoom calls with the film commissioners of New England and then extending to New Jersey. And then I've been participating in international web communications, Zoom meetings with film commissioners from across the globe. That's been wonderful. The film office has also worked closely, in particular now with HBO, where we are doing, regarding education, a virtual meeting. It's kind of on-set meeting and interactions with the various members of production, and that's with all of our local colleges and universities. HBO is owned by Warner Media, and they and HBO, excellent partners in education. We've also had production assistants from the various colleges and universities working on this Gilded Age, and they'll be working on these other shows as well. And as you know, we've put together the Gimme 5 program, which is for high school students. We started this about a dozen years ago. Gimme 5 is not just, when you give me 5, you have to make a connection with someone else. And the idea was to get students from Westerly to Woonsocket to meet one another, to share, and we have labs, and these kids never met one another before, but now they work on a crew, and then we show the films at a local theater like the Greenwich Odeum as an example. And I'll just wrap up, but we have Rhode Island PBS weekly series called Double Feature, and show films from across the world, short films, and then I interview many local filmmakers as well as iconic filmmakers that can give perspective. As an example, we had one gentleman from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, Kevin Lima, who went on to direct the movie Enchanted and the animated film Tarzan for Walt Disney, and he's just one of the local people that I interviewed. And then finally, we support our film festivals: Newport Film Festival, Black Film Festival, Providence Children's Film Festival, and the Academy Award sanctioned Rhode Island International Film Festival, where films premiere there, and if they are the grand prize winners, they are then sent to the Academy in the very small grouping, and from that, the nominees are picked. And I will say 2 years ago, the film that premiered, one of the films, the live action film that premiered at the Rhode Island International Film Festival, won the Academy Award for Best Short Film Live Action. And the first port of call was in Providence, Rhode Island. And then lastly, I'm proud to say that Movie Maker magazine in 2021 said the best places to live and work as a movie maker in all of North America and Canada was Providence, Rhode Island. We became number 6 rating, which I'm very proud of, and that's because of all of the folks in the public sector, like yourselves, in the private sector, education. We are a very special place, Rhode Island, and we can even do better, but it's something I'm very excited about. Open to questions.
Steve, thank you very much.
Or, if you want to throw tomatoes, feel free.
Won't have the same impact virtually, but thank you, Steve. Appreciate the work you do. Appreciate your presentation. Representative O'Brien has a question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Steve. First of all, thank you for coming. And also, before I ask the question, Chairman, I'd like to be marked present, please.
Thank you, Representative O'Brien, present.
I had to start a committee.
Thanks, Chris.
The Corporations Committee. Steve, first of all, I'd like to send my condolences for the loss of your beloved crews. I know how much you love them, and it shows in your posts. But I'm very. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd like to circle back and ask to go into a little more detail on what you're doing with the high school children, and putting them on crews and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of different programs. The Gimme 5 program started about 12 years ago. My dad, being a 6th grade teacher, he saw, because he was sensitive to kids and what he happened to know what I loved, and I was a filmmaker when I was 8 years old. I wanted to try to provide that same opportunity for high school students, and we even have we've partnered up with the Providence Children's Film Festival and done labs with them and junior high school students. We don't discriminate. So we have put together these labs, of which we have professionals. And we work with the Arts Council Education. At one time it was Sherry Brown, and now it's Maggie Anderson. And anyway, we take these professionals over a weekend. It started out one day, and suddenly it became 3 sessions where we meet, we explain certain parts of, it might be about composition as an example, and we teach the kids about the z-axis, which is there's x, y, and then z is the one that provides depth of field. And so it might just focus on that, and then we bring these kids that have never met each other, whether it's from Hope High School or Westerly. We've had kids come from Block Island even.
North Providence.
Not Providence, all over.
North
East Providence. Huh? North Providence,
North
East Providence. No, but I'm just using that as an example. But we have people from all over the state, these kids, and they come together, they've never met each other, and then they form these crews. And so we're trying to build that up, and then we show their films maybe a month later at a theater where their parents can come and their family members. And we show that, we've shown it in Providence at the Columbus Theater, we've shown it at the Odeum in East Greenwich. So that's one program. The other thing that we do is we provide, it's a little more challenging during COVID, but we still have managed to do some of it, where we have students who graduate, or no, they're actually part of, I'll give you an example, the University of Rhode Island, and we had Wes Anderson filming Moonrise Kingdom. I think it was about 20 or 30 students were interviewed for 10 positions as production assistants on Moonrise Kingdom. Not only does it give them a hands-on experience, they then make connections with crew members, professional crew members, which is invaluable. And if I had that, I wouldn't have had to go to California and go to UCLA and USC film schools. I would have done it right here in Rhode Island. So that has dramatically changed for students. What we're doing now, because of COVID, working with the Gilded Age, this new series that's being done by HBO, I reached out to every college and university in Rhode Island, connected them with the line producer of the series, and then we also brought on an executive at Warner Media who specializes in social or community outreach. And so I'll be hosting, I think it's going to be in June, actually. They're working on the dates with all of the different colleges, starting now with their summer program. But I'll be hosting a virtual set visit with the different departments, and so we're going to be doing that this summer. Normally it would have been done April, probably in April, but there was different complications. But we're excited about that opportunity. And then those folks also have asked if they could participate on the double feature show that I host. So again, when I do that, that's all part of an education. So someone is seeing an interview and they're learning and they're seeing how folks have evolved over time to become the best of the best. And they truly are the best of the best. I guarantee you there'll be nominations coming out for Emmys for the Gilded Age show as an example. And for students to have access to those people, to be able to listen to them, is, to me, a dream come true if I was in their shoes. And it's a dream come true for me for what I do as a film lover and one who loves Rhode Island. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, because we need programs like that for these children all across the state. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Steve,
Thank you very much.
Steve, thank you for your testimony, your passion. The committee certainly will take the request on the tax credit cap under consideration.
Thank you.
I will tell you that I'm a little disappointed that as the director of the Rhode Island Film and Television Office, your production background for Zoom is, lacking. I was expecting, something a little more exciting than that. Not to say that that's not a decent background, but I was anticipating something more
Hey, that's
flashy.
from a movie that was nominated for a Saturn Award that I wrote and produced, and we lost to a little movie called Jurassic Park.
Well, you need a better lighting director because we can't.
Oh, that I'll give you.
We can't see that. So, thank you. And we'll finish up with Libby Slater, who's the chair of the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. Libby, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. Distinguished members of the committee, I want to thank you for having me here today or this evening. Again, my name is Libby Slater. I'm the chair of RISCA and I have been for the past 5 years. I'm also a designer and a small business owner here in Rhode Island. Just to echo what Randy and Steve were saying, what I really want to highlight is the entire staff of RISCA has always done extraordinary work. But this past year, they have gone above and beyond to assist the residents of the state and your constituents. Whether it was financially by setting up the Artist Relief Fund, distributing the CARES Act funds at warp speed to provide assistance to those hardest hit by the pandemic, or people emotionally affected by the pandemic. There were platforms that were provided for the residents of the state to share their artwork online and to give them a creative outlet during these really difficult times. And the dedication and hard work by the entire staff of RISCA was awe-inspiring. I mean, I own a small business. I worked really hard to keep everyone busy, to keep everyone employed, and everybody at RISCA, they did not stop. They were amazing. And besides all that they've done for the individual artists and the arts organizations, the collaboration with the Department of Health, which is the first of its kind in the country, is a model that other states are looking to emulate. And so far, it has been an incredible partnership. And we're looking to do the same with the Department of Education. As Steve mentioned, Maggie Anderson is doing incredible work, and as Sherry Brown is doing with Department of Health. And, the arts are a place of healing and learning, developing skills for critical thinking, problem solving, reducing stress. And right now, it's even more important than ever. And I'm just really proud of the work that they've all done and just be a part of it. So thank you so much for your continued support. Please take under consideration raising the cap on the film tax credits, because it really would make us a huge player in the field. So anyway, thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Libby. We appreciate your testimony and come before us tonight, and the well-deserved accolades for the staff. Any questions? Seeing none, that will conclude the hearing tonight. The business of the House Subcommittee on Education, the Finance Committee, is concluded. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.